how much money is going to flow through your hands? How much is that? Think about time and think about the money that comes in. And when I think about the amount and volume that I spent in cash already in my life, it equates to such a big number of lost opportunity for me. You got an opportunity to change that for yourself. Have you ever been frustrated when you learn something and you go, oh man, it would have been so much better if someone had told me that sooner in my life? Well, I've experienced that. I suspect you may have too. And today, I'm going to show you what it would cost to spend $1,000 in cash. That means you've earned the money, you have it in cash, and you go and spend it. Now, this is one thing that really frustrated me and angered me actually, when I realized how much it had actually cost me because I had gone and spent a lot of money up until that point in my life by just spending cash. The first thing I thought I would do is just talk about, well, what did it cost to earn that $1,000? So you had to go to work in some form to earn that, right? And every one of us living here in our great country of Canada, we know that when we earn income, it gets taxed. For the sake of this argument, I'm going to say, well, to get that $1,000, it's going to cost you about $1,282.10. Well, I don't know what it's going to cost you actually, because every one of us can have a different tax rate. That particular calculation was done on someone who had a taxable income of $75,000 a year. We could go and we'll go look at that. So this is just an example of a software tool that you can, just a tool you can get that would calculate what your average tax rate would be. And as you can see, it's this row here, and average tax rates vary across our country. They go up to 25+% and down to like 19, 18%. So for the sake of the example that I want to go through, I use 22%. And that's where that $1,282 comes from. So 22 cents out of every dollar you earn goes to taxes. So you have to earn more than $1 to get $1. So as you can see in this example, for $1,000, you have to earn $1,282. And that's the first point that I wanted to make. The next thing I wanted to show everybody was how much lost opportunity would you have when you spend that $1,000? Well, again, that number is going to depend on you because it's going to be based on a few inputs, right? So let's go look at what they could be. I use 3%. So that's just the 3% per year over X amount of years. Now it depends on how long you live. So you have to decide, what's a reasonable time frame to use. So for the sake of this argument, I use some person who's 64. So 26 years of income off of that $1,000. So let's just say that $1,000 is in a tax-free savings account, growing at 3% per year. That's what it would have cost you in 26 years. Just to help you see that, you can just simply go find an opportunity cost calculator. There's a lot of them on the internet. Plug in the $1,000, plug in the 3%, plug in the 26 years, and it shows $1,179.35 that are foregone interest earnings. That just gives you a much better picture of the cost of actually what it costs to spend $1,000. So really add the two together, the $282 that went to tax, to get that 1,000, screw that in there, it's like $1,461 to get to that point. And, so that's plus the 1,000 that, you spent. So it costs you somewhere around $2,500. Now, those numbers very much will vary from person to person. And it's just to help you understand that there's a cost. As soon as you spend $1 that you earn in cash, you never get to spend that again. So that's what we call lost opportunity. And the next thing is how could you change your results? Because, remember back when I started talking about this, like just something that frustrated me about the fact that I didn't know I could have done something different than spending cash. If you're not familiar with what we do here at Ascendant, we help people with what we call the infinite banking concept. Now that happens to be based on this particular book by R. Nelson Nash, Becoming Your Own Banker. It's sold over 500,000 copies. It's a self-published book. And why has it sold so many copies? It's because it works. the thing that I really want you to understand is if you don't know about what the infinite banking concept is, I'm going to encourage you to go watch ibc.com. Yeah, you'll see the link below here. And that's a 90-minute training video on the concept. And that concept allows you to do things like I'm going to speak about. And so how can you change your results? I think I gave you a hint there. You can apply the infinite banking concept in your life. Now, what would that look like? Instead of putting the $1,000 into, just spending it, you put it into a dividend-paying whole life insurance policy. That's right. That is the platform that we use for the infinite banking concept. It's a very specific design, dividend-paying whole life insurance policy. So you might be saying, well, why would I put it there? Didn't I just lose, I don't have that $1,000 anymore. And that's a pretty simple answer, because when you start to practice this concept, you would be able to take a policy loan for the $1,000 that you need. Here's where it gets really interesting, because the thing is that your $1,000, you don't take it out. It keeps on growing every day, uninterrupted, because it has to by contract. And you're able to take a policy loan against that contract up to 90% of the cash value. So when I say here, what could you do instead? Well, you could put your $1,000 into premium, and then you could turn around and take a policy loan. So what I thought I'd do is I just show you what that could look like. It's an in-force illustration, and it's on a policy that I own on one of my children. So I'm the owner. I get to use it. I get to practice banking, because we're going to talk about banking. It's not about the product, it's about the process of banking. And again, if you don't know why, I'm going to encourage you to go watch ibc.com and take in that 90-minute video just to help yourself understand this. In this particular contract, I'm able to put $4,000 a year into it. You see that number right here. And what the life company requires that I put in is over here. It's less than what I could put into it. That's the way that contract is designed. Just to help you understand a few things, I just wanted to point out a few things. So because the numbers are here, I thought I'd use them. And that's where on the guaranteed side, you can see between year 2 and year 3, the guaranteed cash value is going to grow by $1,400. So it's just the difference between the $3,100 and the $1,700. That's $1,400 in that year. Once you do the simple math, that's like $3.83 a day. So every day between year 2 and 3, the guaranteed cash value in this policy is going to go up $3.83. Now, the other thing is I have the option to put in the $4,000. So this is when I'm thinking back to that diagram we looked at there. If I chose to put $1,000 into here and I chose to take that $1,000 out, you can see, well, based on, that conversation we had where, you can borrow up to 90% of your cash value. So I could easily borrow $1,000 against this policy because I paid the $4,000 at the start of this year. It's going to grow to $4,200 by the end of the second year, but it's well above $1,000 at this point. So I can easily take that policy loan out right now for $1,000. Now, a couple other things I just wanted to show you just for information's sake. You can see that in the third year, if I put this $4,000 in a premium, and then I go look at what my cash value grew to at the end of that fourth year, you can see that's pretty much dollar for dollar already. And this is the end of the third year. And one thing you'll learn, Nelson said this very clearly, every time you start a dividend paying whole life insurance policy, you're creating a business where one didn't exist before. Your own little banking business you can create with these assets, these contracts. So you're creating a business that didn't exist before. So you got to capitalize it. And so the first few years, you may put in more capital than you have value. And that's pretty normal for any business. If you've ever started a business, you'll get that. But as you can see, it's pretty amazing how quick we can get to a point where we have as much or more value than we've ever put into these contracts. And when I talked about putting that $1,000 in, and instead of, just spending cash, you can see here, if I put that $4,000 in, already it's pretty much dollar for dollar. Put $4,000 in, pretty much $4,000 of growth. So I take out the $1,000. the life company is going to charge me interest. And in this particular example that I use for the in-force illustration, I know that life company charges 6.2%. So if you borrowed $1,000, you're going to pay $62 in interest in that year, or 17 cents a day. Another thing I want to teach you is that as a dividend paying policy owner, I get to participate in the profits of that life company. So do you think I mind paying interest into a business, an entity that I'm a co-owner of, where I get to share in the profits? I really appreciate the fact that those life companies are very good at being profitable. They've never failed not to be profitable, all 2 times, a lot longer than I've been alive. Every year, they have given the policy owners a dividend because they're profitable. So they do a very good job. And part of that profit can come from people like you and me paying interest on policy loans. The cash value growth was going to be $8.83 a day, just on the guaranteed side. Cost of interest is 17 cents a day, and yet my value is going up $3.83 a day. Nelson spoke about recapturing the interest that you're spending, sending it away to someone else. And he just didn't talk about money you borrowed. He's also talking about the cost of spending cash, because either way, there's a cost to it. So by spending cash, you lose the opportunity for that money to grow, your opportunity to change the narrative so you're no longer spending cash and losing the opportunity for it to do anything in your life. Because here's what I want you to think about. How much money is going to flow through your hands? How much is that? Like we just looked at $1,000. Think about time and think about the money that comes in. And when I think about the amount and volume that I spent in cash already in my life, it equates to such a big number of lost opportunity for me. And that's what I hope you can get from this, is that you got an opportunity to change that for yourself. And if you want to learn more about this, I'm just going to encourage you to watch more of our videos. And there's one in particular I want to point out, and it's called Everything You've Been Told About Money Is Wrong. And you're just going to be able to see the link to it up here. It's just a short little video like this one, and it'll help you on your journey.